Well, welcome everyone to our Red Rover Zoom space at the New Orleans Poetry Festival Grand Finale 2021. Thank you to all the hard work of the organizers of the festival, and thank you so much for putting it on again, but in virtual space. It's a real, moment of joy and redemption. And I guess echoing something that Douglas said earlier, it's odd to have it be, joyous to be on a Zoom call, but that is our conditions that, rolling with the waves of what this world presents.
Before y'all start, we're just gonna thank our sponsors real quick.
Okay.
And just introduce y'all real quick. So welcome to New Orleans Poetry Festival. We just want to thank our sponsors who allowed us to provide this festival free for the entire month of April, the Jazz and Heritage Festival, along with the Academy of American Poets. We're here with some of the board of the New Orleans Poetry Fest you may have seen in some of the Zoom rooms. And I'm Megan Burns, co-director Bill Lavender, Jonathan Pitton, Rodrigo Toscano, Minji Maria, Sean, Lisa Passold. You've seen some of these hosts like in your rooms and stuff. There's Nance coming in with some food, backup support. We're just gonna raise a toast 1 second to all the amazing people that made this happen. Thank you all for being here with us. Thank you for joining the New Orleans Poetry Fest. And here's to Slow Sparks closing us out with our grand finale. Let's go.
Love it. It wouldn't be New Orleans without a toast, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Megan. It's so nice to see everyone here. So yeah, all of our panels were moved to this year. And so that's kind of like a slow thing that happened, and now we're gonna spark. We're very excited for this event. We're very excited that y'all joined us. Thanks again. We are going to explain the set of constraints that we're going to work with tonight. Jen's gonna take us through that. But of course, as usual, this is an experiment. So whatever kind of creative energy or experimentation you bring to this event, this performance, this interactive experience, feel free to feel your way through. So Jen, do you want to talk about the different set of rules that we came up with?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna just start kind of with back to time and slowness and our theme a little bit. We're so grateful for the New Orleans Poetry Festival for having us and for letting us close out. To be honest, we also chose this date because tomorrow's May Day, and we really wanted to celebrate all the labor we've all been doing, of course, for poetry, for art, for activism, even, the ways a lot of us have had to learn how to work from home and work during a pandemic. And another part of the theme today, we are thinking about justice. And if you were involved with kind of some of the chatting before we went on Facebook, before we went live, we are definitely grateful for everyone who's been involved with activism. And I know a lot of what Laura and I have talked about as curators for Red Rover is justice work and accountability work. And that this is a time where a lot of us are thinking about what that means, both on a personal and a political level. So just to say thank you for this community, the New Orleans Poetry Festival community, for allowing us to participate in past years and this year and to do that kind of work together. And I hope what's happening today, what will happen today is part of that. So just gratitude all around, and to our writers and readers who are taking a risk by doing something we have not rehearsed on purpose. We're interested in this live moment. So gratitude for that kind of work as well. I'm just having a few notes here. So I think those are the main things that I wanted to say to start with. Our 10 future people have their own kind of set of slow directions. And again, you can be in touch with Laura through the chat if there's any questions about that. And as Laura said, this is a creative experiment. I'm assuming the sound is okay on Laura and I. Can you guys hear okay? Sound check, just checking, great. It's ever see that Zoom story, like teacher lectures for an hour or two on Zoom on mute and no students say anything. So then it's like my fear. So we're just gonna go over performance instructions kind of for the rest of what we're thinking of as our Zoom audience. So how you can participate. And Laura has a link she'll put in the chat as well. So in case you want to just look at those instructions later, or if you want to cut and paste, but let me do a little share screen right now, not to get too teacherly about it. But these are the performance instructions for the general audience. And our 10 features, of course, you can also participate as the general audience as well. So Laura, how about I'll read and then you can, do any extra information that needs to be said.
Sure. I just put the link in the chat, by the way.
Thanks.
Mhm.
So 1, during this event, every audience member is a potential performer. 2, you will be encouraged to interrupt with short bursts of language as the collective of sparks. 3, when you see a spark image on the screen, this is the cue to unmute and start reading or singing or making some kind of sound. And 4, once the spark is gone from the screen, we're going to ask you to continue to mute again. And anyone who's a co-host can help with the muting. And as Laura said, this is Zoom. We know this is a space where things overlap and there's a delay, and we're not really looking for right or wrong, but we are trying to kind of have slowness and sparky for sure. Now it's Friday and marijuana is legal now, so in a lot of places. So here's the short speak, right? If you see a spark, again, it's going to be visual. You can unmute and basically do whatever you want to do during that time. If there's no spark on the screen, we're going to ask you to mute to again allow for more slowness. And I think along with slowness often comes a kind of silence. Should we do a quick practice? How do you feel about that? Right now, most of you are muted. And so it might look something like this. And what can you do when you see a spark? Make noise. And then we might have a moment of, yeah, that's kind of basically it. And so, friends we know will be coming in later at different times. So you can share the link for the performance instructions. And I know Laura will be doing that as well.
Mhm.
And Laura, is there anything else you wanted me to say about the notes in general or the performance instructions?
Well, I do want to note, I don't know if you're seeing this on your end, Jen, but there is a delay when you share your screen. So I think that people should feel free to, when you share your screen, know that there's a spark coming. But again, I guess that's your choice to decide.
Yeah,
which
I
spark.
think that's part of Zoom life, but I think that's
Yeah,
good. And
for sure.
I guess for kind of our feature writers, use that overlap time, as Laura was saying, for whatever you're comfortable. So, our feature writers, we have about 10 of you. You don't have to stop reading right away when you see the spark. In fact, the spark is all noise. So maybe you'll want to carry over in some ways. Is that what you're thinking, Laura?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. If there's any questions, you can put them in the chat and we'll kind of keep the performance instructions going. And you can also let people know what's going on. But shall we begin, Laura?
Right, hold on, I'm again going back and forth, just give me a
Yeah,
second.
and thanks everyone for doing something else. We're gonna go for a little bit under an hour at this point, I think is where we'll be at.
All right. JP, you're going to start us off tonight.
Same old, same old, same old, same old, same old. Never believed in unicorns nor the whisper of horses. I know a liar in any species. They all give themselves away. And yes, if it breathes, it can lie. Plants, flies, mushrooms, yeast, even those fabrics, that synthetic blend of chemistry that lets air in and dries sweat super fast. Hope is a love song for the street lights. And you know where time goes. It sinks into your wrinkles, slumps the shoulders, builds on the waist, goes on the thighs, grows hairs and quarantines any sort of sense of that which was, but hope carries on even when the lights are listening. Every diary is a thief. Each entry steals from the ability to reimagine an event in an even better light. The truth is mean and uses its cruelty to defeat its enemies. Thus, it is free. Dreams are made of wires and gears, circuits and machinery. Thinking is John Henry. Fantasy, the steam drill. Come hell, come high water, go heaven, go low tide, be still limbo, be still cesspool, remain purgatory, remain standing water, always among us, stagnation, tied to sympathy. The angels already lost both their battles and their path and the will to submit to instincts. Pity is a guardian. Regrets sentry the city demons. The spectrum is wide, but a gated community, none for the less. If only a better system was more in vogue, in demand, fought to win, to settle new debts and the new world, unfamiliar with old world dreams whose bravery was all but been sweat out without a drop mourned for. For if the soil is unfit for fruit, it is unfit for us. Grace is a worthless harvest. Redemption is a cash crop of little profit. Silence diminishes as sleep ends. Thought comes with a voice of actions enslaved to notions. Dreams whisper if they speak. They are the phantoms of privacy. A secret spirit meant to haunt only one who might find meaning for waking, hope in sleep, fear in sleep, love in sleep, beauty broken to alarm, cells to rise, work, build, commence. Completion is the greatest lie the devil ever told. Over and done do not exist. Tower of Babel collapsed along with the walls of Jericho. The Grand Canyon is deeper every century. Ice melts and water reminds us we are no longer its children. Magic is nothing without an audience. Breathing is a give and take fiasco. On the window pane, how many lives have been left, wiped away? On the phone, how much was received? It's such a pricey ceiling above, holding on to air, only seen in age, gray, yellow, tainted, and as unclean as life itself. Down on itself, the drain begins to leak, gives its love a goodnight piss, talks and runs, handle shaken to silence complaints of the overused, overworked, overlooked, chains, a part of a toilet's troubles and utility, how helpful restrictions can be in one light, how bleak in some other sense, tied down, whipped, no fetish for the reality of relatives, a crown of no. John Henry's single-minded, heavy-handed swing for the Jackie Robinson fences to come, a shroud of opposition, christened, baptized, consummated, initiated, that downward strike to shake applause from the nosebleed seats, nigger heaven, balcony, mezzanine, hard to relax when respite is never long enough to allow us to forget, only to forge, to force a spike, a rail, a light headed this way and back and away, black on the backside, smaller.
Oh,
HP
God.
3.
On the
Pulsing.
Leader is one who leads from behind.
Lift.
ah,
The future incorporated into do. A small sound that signals a small change. A corporation descends its drills into the ground a couple hundred feet from the swampy pool. Smooth, a slanted pile of pine is lifted horizontally through the leaves. An incentive blooms then. 6,000 cycles of one system scarcely strung to itself with slow repetitions. Sudden interruptions are but subtle. Your slang is so perfect, you easily move onto the shore to start building a structure that will hold you just above the water. Appreciate apprehension, for its petals are flat and unpresuming, sticking up a little bit out of the water. Looming is a large central eye. A group of stems, say, separate, and something in the water prevents them from reproducing. Something leaking from a remote location. All of a sudden, a predatory response gone haywire and the stems all collapsing. It happens while they are sleeping. If it could be called a she, she'd be crying. Clustered together, they shield each other from attention. The large present tense of the pond, so unassuming. The past is an ecosystem that's mired right in the middle of the last third of this circle. Its perimeter so uneven, but seemingly self-correcting. The part we're approaching when you ask to equalize a system that you might only be riding. In the middle of a decade, in the future, these small mistakes might have less feeling. Clouds shake out a decision whose power settles its dust and dissolves salt and cells, composing the compromise, keeping this little liquid location together. As excited as we are to keep living, the imbalance that we could be consuming, the limited ends to mean production, a short list and a shorter leg up to disaster, circling around the source of wealth. A feeding frenzy above the thick, rich swamp of protein and life, lifted and floating, the lily-like functions register, feeling light. A low flying change in attitude is shot down like a soldier who signed up at the wrong time. Forced to stay on until the whole thing was over, but it just went on and on. These are the rights we sit on, a sweet life and a sweeter life later on. All this life to master, certain of what happens after. Little measures, weaving underwater, make for older references centered on me and you. The you I've been gunning for limps in on one short leg and says, let's go, but I can't just then. Then just let go, but no. Please get lost, but please come back. The smaller the ripples in the water, the larger the weather. We've all gone further together. Some futures traded for finer treasures, flashy leather and shallow pleasures. The part they've mastered where we resent
A good
taking care.
leader is one
Parts we massive.
who
Another
massive.
Where there was a moment now
the number one
Are we
value.
massive?
on staying
Accountability, integrity,
forever.
clarity has
Are
no
we massive?
transparency,
what I
democracy,
was
Massive.
begging something
practice.
Massive.
Democracy is
nice.
a practice of being fair to all.
Uh,
A good leader is
I
one
don't.
Utilize the system to make
behind.
If you were only
Good
interrupting,
leader
if you were
is one
only why situation,
The, the
situation.
police work for us at the end of the day.
Heard it. Yeah, that's exactly.
The police work for us at the end of the day. The police work for us at the end. The police work for us at the end. The police work for us at the end of the us at the and the police work for us at work us. The police work us at the end work. The police work for us at the end. Someone pays for it. What work is done? Someone in for it. When the work gets and the police work for us. 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 The police work for puts for puts forward. Gets in for what the world puts in gets done with, puts up with what work is put in. The police work for us at the end of the police work for us at the police work for us at the police work for us at the end of the day. The police work for us at the end. What's done? The tax, some taxed with to get taxed, the some taxed with to get taxed, to paid for it to be work tax to get tax 2 times for 1 time. 12's 24-hour work at the end of the day. The police work for us at the end. At the end of the police work for us. At the end of the police work for us. At the end of the police work for us. At the end of the day, working over us in who gets worked is who gets taxed. Someone pays. The police work. Someone pays. The police work. Someone pays. The police work for us at the end. Someone pays. Someone pays. Put out for it. Someone pays to someone out work over and 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 over. Work for us at the end of the day. The police work for us at the end. The police work for us at the end. The police work for us. The police. What is that work? Who owns it? Who gets owned when someone pays to get a tax, taxed and pays for it? What is 12's 24-hour work at the end of the day? But make someone pay for something someone else put in for. The police work for us us at the end. The police work for us. The police for us, the police, us for them. The police work for us at the end. The police work for us at the end. The police work for us at the end. If one says they see what offends them, whose
All people around the world need good government, democracy.
It's just bad and ugly.
Trust
There's
trans
no good.
children.
Just bad and ugly.
Trust
There
trans
is no
children
good.
are
Bad and
dangerous.
ugly. There
Trans
is
children.
Democracy
no
takes
good.
interest
Over and
in
over,
your
over and over,
opinion.
509.
Ugly.
over.
68.
Here,
HB 3. HB 1. HB 92.
Nail his
Democracy
ass
does not
HB 1298.
wall.
democracy takes
Nail him to the
keen
wall.
interest in your opinions, your opinions,
Nail
your
his
opinions,
bad,
your
ugly
the
balls
police
to
work
the
for us at the end.
wall.
The police work for
Let the dog lick its own butthole.
us at the end. The police work for us at the end. The police
Dog lick its own butthole. Rodrigo has an erection.
opinions,
Work for us and say
At the end of the day.
opinions,
Sparks, sparks, sparks.
opinions.
At the end of the day.
Big Chief of the Black Eagles.
John from the screen, continue to mute again.
Opinions. Your opinions. Your
Pennies. Pennies.
opinions.
Pennies. Pennies.
Uh,
Pennies from hell. Hee hee. Pennies. Pennies. Pennies.
Opinions.
Pennies.
Opinions.
Pens.
Uh.
Knees. Pens on knees. Hands on knees.
Opinions.
Knees on knees.
Uh.
Knees on floors.
Uh.
Knees on altars.
Opinions.
Knees on hands. Hands on knees.
One summer, one
Uh.
summer in my 20s, having saved them up, I made all the mistakes I would ever make. Towed car, apartment blaze, driving, drunk, cracked window, pierced eyebrow, each faux pas felt smaller than the last. We lived in a world with so much hurt that mistakes like these dissolved, were no longer known as such. Thus, I could not stop making them, could not learn from them. After 12 years of ruining panties, never figured how to track my cycle, and the best I could do was download an app. I gave in to becoming my mother. Couldn't give a shit about my Bildungsroman by the time I got around to it. There were other lessons displacing those ones. Another kind of adolescence afoot. The phrase late bloomer suggests something organic or natural about the process. What that summer taught was this. It's the way the front yard of the mayor's house is rigged with sprinklers that pulls that green right from the dirt. planting a garden during the George Floyd uprising. 1. I prune the bottom leaves, my brother says, and snaps them off with one flick of a finger. I flinch, but this is what it looks like to take care of a tomato plant. Everyone has a slug problem, he says. They come out at dusk. I find them with a flashlight, squeeze them one at a time, leave the remains to warn the others. After singing an old song about unity, cutting the sheet of burlap in two, like halves of the whole world, I mix the topsoil with the perlite with my hands, bracing my hips against the bin. My breath is taken at how heavy it is, how much strength it takes to cradle it into my arms, that this is the weight of something that's everywhere. A small needful fact is that Eric Garner worked for some time for the Parks and Rec horticultural department, which means perhaps that with his very large hands, perhaps in all likelihood, he put gently into the earth some plants which most likely, some of them, in all likelihood, continue to grow, continue to do what such plants do, like house and feed small and necessary creatures, like being pleasant to touch and smell, like converting sunlight into food, like making it easier for us to breathe. Friends, will you bear with me today? For I have awakened from a dream in which a robin made with its shabby wings a kind of veil, behind which it shimmied and stomped something from the south of Spain, its breast aflare, looking me dead in the eye from the branch that grew into my window, coochie cooing my chin, the bird shuffling its little talons left then right, while the leaves bristled against the plaster wall, two of them drifting onto my blanket, while the bird opened and closed its wings.
Here's a leader.
The reign in Spain is mainly based on pain.
Democracy is a post-Arab Spring.
I broke a glass from Prague.
Eat without wrestling.
Pain.
Democracy has to
Strawberry lemonade.
everybody.
Strawberry lemonade.
Democracy has to involve
Strawberry letter number 22.
democracy.
There's a hard my fart.
You want to smoke.
Everybody. Democracy has to involve everybody.
Things make me want to smoke.
Skill is stroke. Warning.
But
Every audience member.
Pain.
Ron, where you at, Ron? Where you at, Ron? Where you at, Ron?
At the end of the day,
You was a weird look,
Yeah,
right?
what?
Red rum.
There it is. That's the
Red
end of
rum.
the beginning.
Red rum. Red rum. Red rum.
Jonathan, do you have anything to say?
Red rum.
Top of the day.
Yeah.
End of the day, red wine.
Top of the day.
At the end of the day.
Alcatraz is no longer an island.
Red rum.
no end to the story.
Over and over and over and over and over and over.
Ordinary love. Ordinary love.
The day?
No, I'm
The end of the day.
The day?
feeling you can shake.
Labor.
Thank you for
Labor at the
sweeping
end of the
that.
day. Labor during the
Thank you,
day.
sir.
Labor every day. Going into labor. Woo! Laborious. Blake Nemec wrote, men stand at the 26th and Florida stop sign, ready to be picked up, ready to work. Their bodies washed and hair combed, the corners hot, but they stand anyway. The cash money is worth the wait and danger. Money is waiting. This is for all the men, women, people waiting, crossing a frontera, la frontera, cruzando the border in hopes of, as Jimmy Santiago Baja said, trying to cross poverty to just having something. He said, we aren't giving the children a chance to live. The children are already dead. We are killing them. There's a lot of labor injustice, not a lot of justice in labor. And meanwhile, los saguaros are being destroyed. The sun is needed and also dangerous. Beneath it, people hide things for others. En la sombra de saguaros, water in containers painted black to absorb, not reflect sun. Sunscreen, sombreros, clothes, crude maps. Imagine the sun betraying your whereabouts, not using a phone for fear of becoming a little black dot crossing a line. Oh, see, your location is being commodified, along with cages and the cages around them. The virus travels like the rich. Saguaros can die of frost, spreading over expandable skin and fruit red as royalty. Wooden ribs can hold 200 gallons of rain. Si se dejan al sol y la lluvia, saguaros can live 2 centuries, as long as this country has been. Longer than this frontera has been. To kill or steal a saguaro is a felony. Cactus cops who normally roam the border now stand by while saguaros are removed to make room for a wall whose removal will be reminiscent of Berlin. Después de 100 años, a saguaro starts to grow its first arm, lifting it into the sky as if to say, dame tus cansados, tus pobres, your huddled masses yearning to breathe libres. Envíame los desposeídos. I lift my lámpara beside the sun-colored door. Keith S. Wilson. Some colors are indistinguishable at night. Put your hands behind your back. A cop once asked me, it was so sincere. He was so polite. As a boy, you learn to know the inside without being required to feel it. As when now I understand a bucket or a hood. He asks my girlfriend, not if she is white, since even in this light, what we are is obvious. But instead, he speaks philosophically. Ma'am, he asks, are you here of your own free will? Sometimes whiteness is a form itself of hyperbole. Try this, sit in a field, then try reading Andrew Jackson's quotes on liberty, only pretend they are written by his white slaves, his black slaves, his slaves, written by slaves. Look at the word black on the paper and you will see a definite black, a kind, a certainty. Or if you see nothing at all, that of course is a kind of black too. Rise and Fall and other titles. Aurelius was emperor, Siddhartha a prince. Cloth doesn't breathe well, which means I can't breathe, which means I can't breathe well, which means I can only breathe shallowly, which means I am aware of the breath. In meditation, be aware of the breath. The observer observes the observer observing, being observed by another observer in observance of the breath. Observing the breath means it's hard not to control it. Observing the breath means it's easy to lose track of it. What with the nature of the mind when the breath is not constricted by mask, scarf, water, or kneecap? Nothing makes me consider the breath like being underwater and hearing it. Nothing makes me consider the heart like hearing it quicken or anticipating its cessation. And what slows the rise of breath and fall of empires like restricting a body politic by kneeling on its neck.
Neck.
Saguaros grow one.
Saguaros.
Aro.
Saguaros sometimes have
Deep in the water.
Nothing makes
per
me
year.
consider the breath like being underwater and
Misinterpreted when
hearing it.
fanaticism
It's easy to lose
Disgusting.
track of it.
is
Psycho
placed
killer.
in the ballot box. Free and
Ba, 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 ba,
fair.
better.
It is not democratic.
Psycho killer.
Run, 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 run,
Racism is
Saguaros
not
grow 1 inch a
democratic.
year.
run away.
1 in 100,000 have a crown.
Put your hands behind your back.
Board, orders, board, border, boring, bordering, ing, ing.
Saguaro.
Run to the border, and away from the border.
Oregon pipe. Oregon pipe cacti.
Yet another day.
The Ming Dynasty.
Yet
Barefooted in the desert.
another day. Yet another day. Yet
Watermelon.
another day.
Melon.
Yet
Melones.
another
Melancholy.
day.
Calling.
Yet
Zing.
another day. No mercy for him on his miserable watch. This ugly guy, heartless watch, erase his big name that it go down in ignominy, his thumb of dominance, and all his white men go down with him. Sperm count down, monster, ego smashed. Hell, open gates for this precedent, a filthy liar whose stubby fingers drip blood, whose pudgy thighs are damp with the dribble of feces and sperm, accidents to whom he'll sell every position of responsibility and each inch of our country, a sopping disaster stretched over nothingness, stupid, a liar, inadequate, uninteresting, unintelligible, horrible, inexcusable, unbelievable. Why is he unstoppable? I don't understand. The opposite of everything that is good and true, the inferno. Press a dent in our heads, hammer and sick viral phage, book ugliest, uglier, poor, tan, orange, flame, retardant, retire, now, liar, liar, and thief, White House for hire, replace with highest good, good, good vibrations, and cease burning up the world with a hot head. A distinction should be made between this president and the universal one. Declare independence. Ain't no justice for our kinfolk. Ain't no justice for our Black men. Ain't no justice for our Black femmes. Ain't no justice for our children. We cortisol up, but can't breathe. Ain't no justice to see. Ain't no justice for me. Could you just add the word no somewhere in the poem for me? How to balance things better. You are my friend. You are a fighter. To presence the consequences of choices that I've made that don't leave me air, space to think and act as I mean to do in the world. Really working to do better. Democracy is what you believe. Democracy is what you believe. Democracy is what you believe. Democracy
Entra, entra.
The
Aquí
people
hay de
say,
todo.
the people say,
Serte.
La miseria de los
and
ricos,
live.
el placer de los pobres, ponches,
Los enfermos.
vampiros,
Real.
molcajetes, biónicos,
I didn't shoot no babies.
licuadoras, aguacates,
what
blusas,
you believe.
tenedores,
Narrow area.
palillos,
Fuego.
Lavativas,
salchichas,
chicharrones,
taquis,
You
paraguas,
believe.
ladrillos,
Of the narrow area.
Guamas.
lámpara,
máscaras,
luces,
ladrones,
libros,
sangre,
pipas,
víbora,
guantes,
cirios,
Lenguas.
bloques,
justicia,
botas de piel,
anteojos,
chamarras,
narices,
pantalones de cuero,
orejas de perro,
monstruos,
Catarras.
laberintos,
conejos,
Catarras.
algunas cumbias,
baila esta cumbia,
What?
tortillas hechas de
Yes.
mano,
mueve la cintura,
Muchos besos.
las manos en aire.
ASMR. 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 Massage on the mind. Medium. Lukewarm. Here come the cool turbines, turreted and tourniquet for the tongue. Silence regards its noises dimensional, of incremental decision. Okay, whatever. Give me tingles or give me death. Fold me into microplush fleece, deep in the soil. The organisms modify our double helix. She performs skin grafts stuck on lizard sacks, manual labor, busy at pencil sound. How sexy it all is. The automata, those bodies who furnace frisson of spectrum wave in heat. I know what lack this body places me in. They whisper into ears of a multitude. Shingles corner the market on intimacy. Junkies of golden dawns at equator. They sense our walking toward bite-marked apples. The Edenic X, pleased with itself in this fallen, sunken, worlding. They lullaby industries of affect, narcosis, mercs at the door, prescribing fear of iteration. I'd like to see them in her commonwealth eyes when he rises on pixelated parapets, a fortress of massage styles secure us in digital blankets while chewing sounds come at you and goose your encryption. On the street, meanwhile, they ask you for change and you recoil because principium individuation is our current politics. Letter it on civilizational medium, technique du corps, through which organs are privatized, machine porn for the recently tingled, interrogation of the same eros. We aren't in control. The automata are not in control. The sleepers awake, they are not in control. A body that transverses its voltage on the cog labor markets loses its hairstylist to desuetude or objecthood in the IUD margins? Why is it when they tap glass or plastic, its timber equates to memories of El Monte, our meta nostalgia? Why is it that estrangement on the screen satisfies our shared libidinal economicon? Why is it when they stroke the tympanic membrane, our feelings are seduced? Who is it that's indignant? Whose body is rioting in the grasses? Whose face is collecting dust in digital mesmerism?
Stardust.
Clouds of
Balas de
clouds
platas
of toxic
y
fogs
montañas de
of
azul.
yellow
El
that rub
capitalismo
our back, a switching of power and
Capitalismo
grids marching
Bitter.
to the beat of different drums, red toward matriarchal ordinations, to be acephalic, the shipwrecked squat in high rises, high on paganism, will be autonomous
Taking
at last.
bread.
They are calling us now,
Breaking
calling us
bread.
to action,
Taking
calling us to action, calling us to the department stores, calling us to the stations where our weird sisters are ready to welcome us.
Across the sky.
Celebrations.
Across the sky. A wine stain spreads across the sky. Were we, my so-called life, Leto, Snyder saved your Justice League. Face it. 4 hours for our gut trails. Dot topographies were our maps parts of pole dancers before Lil Nas X slid down exotic dancers alliance organized around town. Towns have honey. Honey, I'm not joking. You have something confused with other masks. Freedom rings collectively. Burning anti-COVID masks? A bad performance. You want mouth flag rights? Hanky codes state your desire. I want you to want science. I want you to want me to swell, be lung filled and empty, in and out. People want to breathe. Tomorrow is our next breath. Come said so. Say BLM accomplices. Restoked emergency warnings. Yellow diamonds on the roadside. What your phone shows. Lightfoot's coin-centered vernacular. High power wins. Laura reader, Laura listener. Enter the dollar. Object for reform. Coin of property damage. Switch. Ping. Passive sentences protect. Badged murderers. ICE. Watch pendulums swing. Across street, cars named house. Cars named fast. Tickets to anywhere. Were there a US town, unreflective of straight, rich, whiteness I see, Were I a trans faggot adjunct? Were I a straight, rich whiteness? Were I a landlord like Bernadette Mayer's Utopia, working for the tenants? Tenets towards depolicing, switchblade my eyeballs. Wanna see as Delaney's prism, forward, back, peripheral looks, like stardust, were we?
But were we?
Were we?
Were we?
Ziggy
Were we
Star.
mouth flag rights?
This should be a fair game.
Nancy.
This should be a
Kind of flag
fair
rights.
game.
What is your
It should
flag?
be a fair game.
Hang it out of your ass
This
pocket.
should be a fair game.
Your ass pocket. Flag it.
A fair game.
Uno de estos días te
Fair
digo, tipo.
ass hanky code.
Ooh, hanky code.
Hanky panky.
Hanky
This should be a fair game.
code.
Hanky in the code.
Games.
Hey, this should be a fair game.
Games.
Hanky code?
Hanky games.
Should be a fair game. This
My name is Sarah Zalick. Sarah Zalick is my name.
fair
Sarah, you can call me Zalick.
game.
Asian.
State it.
This,
The
State it.
question.
this,
Zalick.
What?
Asian.
Look.
this,
What kind of jeans?
this game.
Way.
Marcy.
City.
This, this game.
Hold up.
Time.
Under the room.
Epithelial cells. Boardwalk. A murmuring fills the distance between the fire of celestial bodies and my registration of their light thousands of years later. I wake up to suffocation, an undertow, a cloying, amorphous shadow, words that are difficult to find and hold on to. Describe the difference between an anxiety dream and a nightmare. During REM sleep, brain chemicals suppress skeletal muscles. An inability to scream compounds terror. Am I screaming if no one is around to hear me? Once with a partner in bed, it seemed impolite to scream by the time muscle control returned. Today, it seems absurd not to. Voices lost to the bottom of the sea. Refugees from Vietnam and Syria more recently. An adult can drown in 40 seconds, a child in 20. An aunt's friend lost her child to dehydration while adrift in a boat bound for freedom. Her friend let the sea take what was left of the child. October 2019, 39 Vietnamese people, 29 men, 2 boys, 8 women, die in a refrigerated lorry in England. Pham Thi Cha Mi, 26, texted her mother that she could not breathe. I scream loud enough to wake my friends, separated from me by walls and rooms. Its presence has a shape that surprises me. It is not a faint grasping at air I associate with night terrors. My friends are relieved to find me alive. Is it the best I can hope for? Prior to the scream, I drift in and out of consciousness
I listen to my heart beat. I don't know how much time passes or if I sleep. I resist rest, resist loss, part animal, part ego, the animal attuned to danger, pain, the ego to suffering. The day before, I moved through the machinery of a government-run mass vaccination site. For once, thankful to be a QR code, to be scanned, for my movements to be efficient. The man in the military uniform who administers my shot looks to be in his late 20s. I recall an attractive smile, but I am unsure. Was he not wearing a mask? How would I have remembered the smile if he was? Why did I not think it strange then that he's not wearing a mask? I'm sure I am wearing two masks, cloth one over a KN95 mask. The workers, or were they volunteers, directing me in the parking lot wore masks. I'm sure of that. I remember quickly pulling up my mask, which hangs half off my face driving. The room I sleep in is darker than the rest of the cabin. Two single beds sit across from a rocking armchair next to a table with a lamp, an oriental lamp, something my family would own for its familiar forgery of Ming Dynasty porcelain, though our history with China is fraught. The empty bed next to mine suggests a body not there. There's more room for ghosts and minds to wander. Despite years training myself to sleep alone without a nightlight, I remain afraid of the dark. Spotlight on the murder of 8 people in Georgia, 6 of them Asian women. A deer appears at the edge of the woods. We watch it watch us through a wall of windows. Did it hear me too? A neighborhood homeless man stands near the front door, twirling a blue surgical mask. The cashier pulls down her mask to put food in her mouth. I am socially distanced enough to be unsure if it is nuts or a piece of chocolate. No one at the vaccination site checks my ID or the pieces of mail I brought to confirm my zip code. When I made the appointment, they asked me my ethnicity. I answered, Asian? Like a question. The woman on the other end said that was enough.
Oh,
Never enough.
okay,
Never
okay,
enough.
okay,
Never
okay.
enough. It's never enough. Siempre quiero más.
We can't bring the food out because y'all get jealous.
Siempre quiero más. Tú siempre quieres más. Y más.
¿Qué quieres?
Más.
Okay, 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 okay,
Okay.
Why?
okay,
Who are they? Who are they?
okay, 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 okay.
Okay.
What are they doing?
Okay, okay, okay.
Well,
Okay.
well,
Artist, writer, intellect,
Okay.
artist,
I want you to say.
artist,
Yay.
intellectuals, inventors. Tina Turner already told you, we don't need another hero. We don't need to know the way home. Make a new home, a 21st century vision, a future image. Get up from the banquet table of the feast of American madness. Wipe your mouth and turn the entire table over. Grab the hand of the person next to you and make a break for it. French kiss the idea of humanity. If you find your imagination cannot stop itself from churning out the scripts of the death machines, pull its plug, dismantle it, reprogram it, dream daylight, manufacture daylight. We are the magicians. Make magic. That's from Call by Krista Franklin and her work Too Much Midnight by it's Haymarket Books. Too Much Midnight by Krista Franklin. But I'm blessed to have plenty of close acquaintances, but truth be told, the book is my only friend. And yet that begs the question, which book? My philosophically descriptive name, Ron Epistemologist. My Lothario name, Cautious Ribaldry. My surrealist name, Salvador Rani. My tenured in Alabama name, Roll Tweed. My superhero name, Captain Form. 1970s absurdist Hanna-Barbera cartoon name, Persnickety Limes. My alliterative name is all kinds of awesome. My name from 100 years ago, Eugene Toomer. My Gallifreyan deep cut name with an unexpected gender twist, Lurani. The second time I died, I was the one who told Ross Cubas, you know, you really ought to write that down. Organic intellectual name, you probably right. Latinate off maligned by my peers at the Academy name, erroneous. Street villain name, Scheme Nasty. Early 80s throwback TV name, Ron Jacob Jingleheimer Schmitz. His name is my name too. Talking Heads name, Ronnie Shavers, Qu'est-ce que c'est? A cracked Fabergé egg, infinitely valuable to some, but to others, valueless. That's just another way to define the Chronica. Name from the Proustian hierarchy of heaven, the Comte de Flowers. Arrogant warmonger name, Ronnie Rumsfeld. Late 80s Eurotrash name, 3615 Mec du Monde. Sex symbol name, Hot Mess. Stripper name, Busty Shenanigans. Best not to think too long or too hard about it name, Funky Merkin. Spoken word name, Mad Poetical. Low rent telegenic sneaker salesman name, Dr. Fresh Kicks, AKA Skip Payless. When asked for my preferred pronouns, I sometimes say reflexive and intensive. Bed-Stuy dapper name, Sock Game Tight. Racist robotic supervillain name, Alt Ron. Early 90s Jamaican posse name, Ron Didon. Early 2000s bling rapper name, Big Letdown. Southeast Asian street thug name, So Rugged. Early 90s hip hop entertainer name, Too Legit. African American cookout name, Akafool. Black politician in the Old South name, Daddy Posh. Deep South name, Ronissippi. Blackity Black metropolis name, Ron Lanta. Black gay Georgian name, Morehouse. Name that needs no explanation, Street Legal. Note to selves. The novice thinks the power of the work lies in its words, but that's totally wrong. Real power lies in the combination and recombination of words and how they work in both a dominant and recombinant order. In short, it's not about the best, the most impactful, or even the most logical words and phrases. It's about learning the codes and how to switch them. Wepa. Niger Congo Philo name, Ron2. Secret quantum particle name, Planetron. Arcane trickster name number 78, Coyote. Washed up failure name, I.B. Drankin. Member of the Mexican literati name, C.A.B. Ron. R&B name, The Quiet Storm. Mutant Nation name, Yusef Ibn X23. Mystery name, Inscrutable. Definitely narcissistic NBA player name, Ronnie Buckets. Name that makes Karen weak in the knees. Black Girth, baby. 2020 plague name, Percy Bysshe Shavers. But of course, there's always a certain amount of artifice. Every confessional work contains artifice. Anything written is already edited, mediated, and there's no writing that doesn't highlight a particular affect and persona. It's what novelists sometimes call tone and voice. Black British working class name, cheese on toast. OG mumblecore hero name, Serge Ronsgour. Norwegian wrestler name, Bjorn Big Mad. Gangster ghetto scholar name, Notorious. Hip French philosopher name, Jean Lejeune Levis. Jean Lejeune Levis. 1980s Paradise Garage name, DJ BJ. Intellectually agile but unfortunately earthbound name, Rene Bousquet. That ain't no foul. How you gonna call that a foul name? Big Baby Baller. Melanated Melville name, Dollars Damn Me. Steinian, a rose is a rose is a rose name, mistranslated, Con Grandules. The sandlot, the playground, the swing that only knows one direction, higher.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. You're amazing.
You guys.
Bravo, Joe.
Wow.
Thank you so much for everyone's participation. Thank you, New Orleans Poetry Festival. We miss being there. This was a blast.
Cheers.
Besos.
Yes, together, Laura and Jen.
Gracias.
Thanks for taking a risk with us and trying something new.
Names around the table.
Buenos noches.
Thanks, everybody. Great to see you.
Sparks!
Congratulations, Poetry Festival.
Stay around and
Thanks, everyone.